Hey again, everyone. It's Rob Ryder, and it's Tuesday, June 15th, 2021. And today, TIG will extend the eyes, ears, voice, and conscience. Dot, dot, dot. Should say Secretary of the Army, but it was getting too long. Right? TIG, that's the Inspector General. Not just a Inspector General, but the Inspector General. So, there you go, right? TIG will extend the eyes, ears, voice, and conscience of the Secretary of the Army, who his original title was, until they created the DOD, he was the Secretary of War. Still is the Secretary of War. They just changed his title. And, I say that the United States is under a martial law since the time of Lincoln because of the gold fringed flags that fly everywhere. That those flags are not admiralty law flags. It's a military, it's an army flag. Military style American flag, or flag of the United States. Now, people will tell you, even the flag without fringe on it, that's a war flag, that we have a peacetime flag that the stars are blue and the field is white where the stars are. And that's the difference. And it hangs vertically instead of horizontally. It's called the peace flag. You can Google it and look it up. So even the flag that we fly, like in a flagpole, that's supposed to be a wartime flag. I agree. We're at war. Nothing's changed. We've been at war since the Civil War. And any war since then, there's never been a peace treaty or a special proclamation ending the martial law that had already been declared. And according to the Lieber Code, Article 2, once martial law has been declared, you got to have a peace treaty or a special proclamation by the commander-in-chief to end the frickin' martial law. And the Lieber Code was an order. It's called General Order 100 that was given to the Army. Well, the Army still followed their fucking orders. Right? So if that's the case, then the United States Northern Command is the ones in charge of domestic tranquility. Right? They're supposed to defend the homeland. And I would say then that, in the United States Northern Command, there must be some inspector generals, and it would be their duty to support and defend the Constitution. So that's the gist of this, right? And a little bit of story goes with it. We'll get into it in just a second. But I am Staff Sergeant Robert Allen Werlewski, Army of the United States, which be the big Army, right? The all-inclusive. That includes anybody who's ever registered for the draft, right? I think it's Title 10, United States Code, Section 246 or 248, talks about the militia, and it says any able-bodied male between 17 and 45 is in the militia, right? So there you are. Now, in my state, Michigan, it says any citizen between the age of 17 and 60 is in the militia. So you're in the military, right? Then if that's the case, you get to use inspector generals. Just got to tell them, well, you're in the militia. The law says you're in, so you get to utilize the IG. That again, these are some of the thoughts you have as you're going through all this stuff, right? Now, after I looked at it, I said, well, I got to try it. I put a few things in and see what happens. And so I did some that had to do with more with national security issues, like Congress not having a proper oath of office, and the governor not having a proper oath of office, and so forth. But then I also did one that didn't go to the Northern Command. And when I say one, I mean a request to the Inspector General for some help. Right? And so I filed one into the Human Resource Command of the Army yesterday, which was the Army's birthday, by the way. Thank you very much. 246th birthday on June 14th. But the one I filed into there, that had to do with my personal issues about being a veteran and, knowing that there's all sorts of errors in my records and, that this is the reason people don't get the benefits they have because somebody else has taken them. Right? And by taking them, I mean, if you look at the military retirement fund, right? You can Google it, military retirement fund, and you can find, they just did one in 2020, an audit, and you look at the audit, go back there far enough, you'll find a page where it talks about all the money that's in the fund. It's got over $1 trillion. It's like $1.2 trillion in it. Right? Well, that's retirement pay that had been paid to somebody who didn't collect it. It's on deposit. It's not for next year's retirement. All the retirement gets funded yearly. Right? And so if you have served when you turn 60, I mean, if you didn't serve 20, then when you turn 60, you should be able to get a pension. And it would be just based on the number of years that you served. And all that money is going into this fund, and we're not getting any value out of it. So, and there's a number of other things, but that's for a little bit later on. Anyway, so I still want to file something in there and complain that I can't get my records to find out what the errors are to get the errors fixed. And I'll be damned if I didn't get a call yesterday, the day I put it in, from a sergeant major in the Inspector General's office, and I got a court case. Well, I have an Inspector General case. That's even better. I have a freaking case in the military now. So if I don't like whatever happens, I'm asking for trial by court-martial. So there we are. All right. So, how do you get there? Let's go look at that. As I said, United States Army veteran, Army United States, and you could call me Rob Ryder, unless it's official. Then don't call me Mr., because, right, a Mr. is a knave to an esquire. An esquire and a Mr. are both gentlemen, according to the class system of England. It's just that a Mr. is below an esquire. Neither of those are titles of nobility. A knight is a title of nobility. But an esquire is a crown agent, right? And so anybody who's an esquire is working for the crown, right? They're foreign agents. And they're hiding their true identity and so forth and so on. All these things I point out. That's why this country has the problems we have, right? And so we need to find a way to get to the gold fringe flag jurisdiction and file a proper complaint so that the Army will come. Because that's the only thing that's going to save us. There is no state. The person pretending to be the governor isn't the governor, right? The person pretending to be your congressman isn't a congressman. None of these people are. But the Army is the Army, right? They don't have to take the oath to satisfy the 6th Article of the Constitution. They have, they're military officers. They're not executive officers. And they have their oath, and they take it, and, enough said. It's their duty to support and defend the Constitution. So part of that, then, this is the last thing to think about, is that every state, according to the 4th Article of the Constitution, every state is guaranteed a Republican form of government, which isn't a democracy. It's a Republican form of government. We're supposed to have oath-bound officers to take our complaints to. And we're denied that because nobody's taken the proper oath of office. So, that was the gist of my complaint that I sent to the Inspector General. Okay, enough blabber. Let's get on to see what we did. Hang on a second. So if you Google U.S. North Command, you'll find this page here, which is a little bit hard for me to read, so I put it on another document, right? But it talks about the U.S. North Command, and this is from, northcom.mil. This is our website. And what does it say? Well, we won't read the whole thing, but, let's just get a gist that it's to provide command and control of the Department of Defense Homeland Defense efforts, homeland, right? Again, this is domestic defense efforts, and to coordinate defense support for civil authorities. Northcom defends America's homeland, protecting our people, national power, and freedom of action. Well, where the hell are you? Right? Well, I can tell you the problem. See, we haven't contacted them. We keep going to the, going to this fictitious court system, or the court system in their democracy, which isn't the state that was created, when they created the state from the territory. The democracy is actually an association that was created under the First Amendment, right? It's the United States of America. That's King George's jurisdiction. Treaty of Peace, 1783. So, that's that democracy. Republicans and Democrats are the democracy, but they're not the republic. And if you don't want to fuck around with the fucking democracy, then we need to get to the republic. And then we can control the democracy because that's the way the system has been set up. But because they've ensured nobody's got a proper oath to office, there's nobody to go to. You know, in the civil side of what you would think the government is. It's been shut down. And the military's been left in charge. It's under martial law. Don't argue with it. Figure out how to use it. So the United States North Command defends our homeland. Deters, detects, defeats threats to the United States, right to the United States. Thank you very much. Not in the United States of America. Conducts security cooperation activities with allies and partners and supports civil authorities. And so, who's the civil authorities under martial law? Well, it's who's ever got a gold fringe flag. Right? If they're not in the Army and they got a gold fringe flag, which, you know, it's controlled by an Army regulation that says it's only in Army offices, well then, you know, you're attached to the military. Right? And so these are, you know, our government that we do see is like a contract government. They were contracted to do certain duties that need to be done by a government because the de jure government vacated their office, left it in the hands of the military. So the military does what the military does. They hire things out. Well, you know, they're not doing it right. So, and they know that, or they don't know. It doesn't really matter. I mean, the people at the top know it, but the people that you meet at the counter troll, they really don't know it. They're just doing what they're told. You know, and that's the way it works. They're really not lying to you because it's really what they believe. They've not ever read the law. You know, so their story is never based in truth. It's just based in the way they've done it for 20 years. I've always done it this way. That's their answer they give you. We got to figure out a way to break that. And so there are people with gold fringe flags that might do the right thing if they knew, well, brother, all you need to do is call NORTHCOM. They have a division to support civil authorities. Just tell them it's a man-made emergency. Nobody's got a proper oath of office. You don't know what to do, but you know, you're not an enemy of the United States. Please come help us. NORTHCOM civil support mission includes domestic disaster relief, that'd be the man-made disasters, operations that occur during fires, hurricanes, floods, earthquakes, insurrections, rebellions, Support also includes counter-drug operations and managing the consequences of a terrorist event employing a weapon of mass destruction. Well, let's just stop right there for a second. If COVID isn't the weapon of mass destruction, which it is, whatever they released made people sick, it's a biological agent. I'm not even going to call it COVID. They released a biological weapon, and every biological weapon is a weapon of mass destruction. Now, I know that because I was an NBC specialist in the military. Right? That's a biological weapon, sir. Right? We've just been attacked. Now, the other one is this thing, whatever they're sticking in people's arms. If what they released really wasn't a bioweapon, then what is it they're putting in people's arms and getting them sick? Right? That's a weapon of mass destruction. So, you know, for those reasons, you could call in NORTHCOM, right, about the shit that's happening today. So if that's your issue, call NORTHCOM. Go find somebody, gold fringe flags, so we got to call NORTHCOM. Just watch this dude's video. Right? And then pick up the phone and call them. In providing civil support, NORTHCOM generally operates through established joint task force subordinate to the command. Well, how do you like that? See, NORTHCOM doesn't really have that many people of its own. It's just the command and control, but it can pick up the phone and call people. So, right, an emergency must exceed the capabilities of state, local, and federal agencies before U.S. NORTHCOM gets involved. Well, how do you find out if it's, you know, if you can do it or not? But by picking up the phone, you just do it. Don't wait to be given permission. They're not going to give you permission. They're, you know, it's easier to get forgiveness than it is to get permission. Just pick up the phone and call them. Now, who do we call? Well, one, it would be the U.S. Army North, right, to provide command and control of the Department of Defense, Homeland Defense efforts, and to coordinate events to support civil authorities. Right, they're in Fort Sam Houston. But then they also have a Joint Task Force North, which is at Fort Bliss, is the Department of Defense organization tasked to support our nation's federal law enforcement agencies in introduction suspected transnational threats. Well, okay, well, maybe that's not the one we need. But hey, how about Joint Task Force Civil Support? Fort Eustis, Virginia. All right, got one for Alaska. All right, give them a call. How about the Joint Forces Headquarters, National Capital Region, which is everything within what they call the military district. So all these are different commands under, the big heading of U.S. NORTHCOM. But if you were an officer sitting in an office with a gold fringed flag and saying, well, who do I call? Because it's never been explained to you. Well, if you're not in the Washington area, right, this is the one you call, Joint Task Force Civil Support. And tell them, who you are, your official capacity, and say, we have a problem. And, it's beyond our capability to handle it. We have a man-made disaster. Apparently, nobody has taken a proper oath of office to satisfy the 6th Article of the Constitution, and we don't have any authority in the United States because of it, and we don't know what to do. Ta-da! Right? And then be quiet and see what they say. Well, that'd be one way to do it. Right? That's if you have the gold fringed flag. Well, what if you don't have one? So let's get on to that here. Hang on a second. Okay, but, for the rest of us, well, how do we contact the military? Right? Well, as it turns out, you could always contact them by, going to the Inspector General. And so this is the U.S. Army North, right? One of the places that was on the list. Right? We're looking at their website and Inspector General. Hey, look at that. U.S. Army North, Inspector General. All right. Yeah. Going. And somewhere in here, there's an email address. And on some of these, they have a link that goes to the form they want you to use, which is, where are you, form? Which is this form right here. Inspector General Action Request. Right? It's actually DA Form 1559, and the latest version seems to be June 2018. Sometimes it's hard to, when you find it online, try to download it, it'll tell you that you don't have, at least myself, that I don't have updated enough Adobe or something like that, right? But here I am looking at it from a different site, so I don't understand it exactly. But nevertheless, right, that it's the Inspector General Action Request. You've got to, there's some Army regulation that goes with it. It's always good to download the AR that goes with the form. So that would be AR 20-1, which you can find online just as easy. Principal purpose is to secure sufficient information to inquire into matters presented and to provide a response to the requester and or take action to correct the deficiencies. Well, there you are. Right? Information is used for official purposes within the Department of Defense. Right? This is official business now. So, right? To answer complaints, to respond to requests for assistance, advice, or information. Right? To answer complaints or respond to requests for assistance. So you can, this is like petitioning the government for redress of grievances. Advice and information by members of Congress or other government agencies when determined by the Inspector General to be in the best interest of the Army and, in certain cases, in trial by court-martial and other military matters as authorized by the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Well, there's plenty of room in the UCMJ to get something done. So my point is, you don't have to use civilian law, right? You can use this form and say you're doing it based on military law. So, and the other thing is this has got a semicolon here, so this doesn't, everything on the left doesn't necessarily apply to everything on the right. So this isn't necessarily saying that to answer complaints or respond to requests for assistance, advice, and information, just by members of Congress or other government agencies. No, it's used, as I have shown, you can use it for you, or will show. So yeah, it's got lots of uses. It's like, okay. And there's an old movie, Danny Kaye movie. It's called The Inspector General. You can watch it for free on YouTube. Right? Danny Kaye, Inspector General. And whether you watch the whole thing or not, I don't care. But just listen to the first 5 minutes of dialogue where they find out the Inspector General's coming, right? And how all these people are jumping through hoops. And the people jumping through hoops aren't the military. It's the mayor of the city and the city council and all these other people, right? Because basically they've been left in charge. They got a gold fringe flag in their fucking office. But this shit's still happening. And, well, somebody called the Inspector General and complained, and the Inspector General showed up. So, keep that in the back of your head. And then it's just a, simple one-page form. And, if you don't have this information, then put NA. But if you're over 17, right, you are in the Army of the United States, the AUS. So you can put AUS / civilian. You know what a civilian is? Let's go look at that real quick. Hang on a second. Civilian, one who is skilled in the Roman law, a professor or doctor of civil law. In a more extended sense, one who is versed in law and government, a student of the civil law at the university. There you go, right? You're a civilian. They call you a civilian. So, when you're in the military, active duty, you consider people that aren't, in the military to be civilians. Which, it's a class of, it's a high class of person, so you should take it. And that's all I'm saying is, when you're trying to figure out putting these blocks, right? Well, there's nothing wrong with saying you're civilian, right? Or you could say you're, what is it you have to do when you go to register for the draft? That's the Selective Service System Registrant. Anyways, for myself, it wasn't quite so hard, right? Because I had these to fill in. But don't let that stop you. Don't just put an NA in there. Don't worry about it. The idea is to fill the thing out with the address, an email address, and, right, specific action requested. Well, what do you want the IG to do? And give them some information. And if you need to, upload attachments. Although there is no upload attachments button. I don't know what they're talking about there, right? There's no button on here to upload attachments. So when I sent it I just sent the whole thing as an attachment to an email to the Inspector General's offices. Right? So what do you want them to do? That's the first thing I want to know. What do you want us to do? And give us some background. And then, do you want to release your information? And do you want to release your supporting documents? Well, for me, it's yes to everything. I do. Right? And then you're going to electronically sign the document. So somehow you may have to set that up if you haven't done it already. But, if you haven't, you can. And all that happens, that if you haven't ever seen that before. Because I'm, suggesting some other people go try this without asking me everything they need to know to do it, right? If you need to ask me, then you're going to have to wait because I'm kind of busy right now. But, most people have their own ideas of how they want to do it anyways. So, what did I do that for? Oh, because then you have to save it. Shoot. Okay. Anyways, I would do that and I would fill it in, right? So, okay. It's all pretty simple. Got a one-page form with attachments, right? That's used for official purposes. Well, that's a big deal. Right? Because they're saying if you do this wrong, right, subject to potential punitive and administrative action under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Or 18 U.S.C. 1001, which is a false statement. So if they're going to hold you to that, then they owe you an answer. That's the way I look at it. And if they're not going to give you one, then you need to say that you want to have a trial by court martial under a certain particular section. I'll go look for right now, but yeah, hang on. Yeah, they had these sections in right. This is the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So you have it's actually part of Title 10, right? So under Title 10 is 10 USC 938, 939, but it's called the UCMJ. It's Article 138 and 139, which you can complain about wrongs, right? Any member of the armed forces who believes himself wronged by his commanding officer and who, upon application to that commanding officer, has refused redress, may complain to any superior commissioned officer, who shall forward the complaint to the officer exercising in general court-martial jurisdiction over the officer against whom it was made. And then redress for injuries to property, right? Whenever a complaint is made to any commanding officer that willful damage has been done to the property of any person, or his property has been wrongfully taken by members of the armed forces, he may, under such regulations as the Secretary prescribe, convene a board to investigate the complaint. So this is basically what I, in my personal case, am complaining about, right? That my property's been damaged because there's errors and omissions in my official records that are keeping me from getting what Uncle Sam had meant for me to have. I'm not asking for something that isn't mine, and I'm not asking for a handout. I just want what's mine that was agreed to because somebody decided to not discharge me from the military. Right? It's the decision of the government if you actually get discharged at your enlistment, at the end of your enlistment. Title 10, United States Code 506, I think it is. Right? That once you enlist, right, they can hold you till 6 months after the war. And brothers and sisters, we're always at war. So they kept me in, which they can, and it's on your enlistment agreement, right, which is the DD Form 4. But it also says in there, right, that what you're due, if you're in, is to be paid. Well, where's my frickin' pay? Because I ain't been paid. They decided to keep me. I ain't been paid. And now I can't get my retirement. So, I say I got legitimate complaints, and now I have a complaint number with the Human Resources Command. All right, so I'm hopeful I'm going to get me some relief. Okay, hang on again. Just 1 second. Throw these in before I forget. You always got to mention, right, whenever we talk about the gold fringe flag, if you want to know everything you need to know about it, it's in Army Regulation 840-10, 840-10. And you only need to go down to Chapter 2. Now, the latest version of this regulation doesn't look like this. It has the same information, it's just laid out differently. But it says in 2-3, where is 2-3, Bob? Right, sizes, occasions for display. Right, the national flag listed below are for indoor display and for use in ceremonies and parades. For these purposes, the flag of the United States will be a rayon banner cloth or heavyweight nylon trimmed on 3 sides with gold and yellow fringe 2 1/2 inches wide. It gives these 2 different sizes of flags, and it says where they can be flown. Authorization for indoor display. The flag of the United States is authorized for indoor display for each, right? You got office headquarters, organization of battalion size, military officers not otherwise authorized to flag, military courtrooms, U.S. Army Element Joint Commands, Joint Element United States Recruiting Command, ROTC, Senior Executive Service employees. Doesn't say anything in there about civilian anywhere, right? That doesn't say it can be put in a civilian courtroom. It cannot be put in a civilian courtroom. Right? If it's in a courtroom, the courtroom's a military courtroom. Well, why is that? Well, because the flag is there. I don't know. I don't have to have another reason. The flag's here. It's a military courtroom. I demand trial by court-martial. right? And start complaining to the IG. This is my point. So if you have a court case, you should complain to the IG. And say, I'm at a court with a fucking gold fringe flag in it. That's a military flag. It's in Army Regulation 840-10. Right? You could copy this page out and send it to them as one of your attachments. It's a wonderful system. There's something up here, because I never mentioned this other part, right? Unauthorized use of official flags. There is no law that permits the sale, loan, or donation of flags, guidons, or streamers to individuals, organizations not in the military, except as indicated in 1 and 2. Educational institutions and retired general officers. All right, so you can't fly in a public building just because you want to. You have to have been authorized to fly it. If you're authorized to fly it, you're somehow tied to the military. If they're somehow tied to the military, then you can complain to the military about what's going on. That was one of the other things here, wasn't it? About right, to be in the best interest of the Army, and in certain cases, trial by court-martial, right? So it's in the best interest of the Army for them to know what's happening wherever their flag is at. Okay, hang on again. Now, I keep showing this one for the Army because that's where I'm, that was for me. But I think that's what you would use anyways, unless you're doing it for yourself personally. Then if you were in the military and you have a personal issue, then it would be with whatever branch, that you served with. They have to have some kind of inspector general system. And if they don't, well, I'd use this form here. But right, this is for the Army. And what I notice is that they have a different form for Joint Inspector General action request. All right, so this is a different form to go to the Joint Chiefs, basically. Has all the same information on it, more or less, so let's see, military or civilian. See, they call you a civilian, right? Well, I mean, sure. All right, you have the status of being an expert in the civil law. Don't let them call you Mister. Right, so I check the box here, put other here, put I put Army of the United States or veteran or something down there. Look in a second. Okay, and I think that's all. Other than me wanting to share what it is I did. Right, and then we'll see what happens in the future. So hang on a second. Okay. So I had the Joint Inspector General Action Request form. And, right, Bertlusky Robert Allen, because that's the way I wanted it. Last, comma, first. Please note, there's no comma between Robert and Allen, so it's not like I have a middle name and a middle initial. I just have Robert Allen. I don't have a middle initial because I don't have a middle name. I have a given first name. It's Robert Allen. I don't have to put a hyphen there. I don't have to do anything. That's the way I do it. Right? And so since I didn't put a comma between these, then you have to agree that it's Robert Allen. Which is how they have you do your DD-214, where they actually ask for last name first and then middle name. They don't ask for middle initial. Right, got my grade, Social Security number, military, Army, other, veteran. Right? Now I'm in the Army of the United States. So I say, if you're not actually in the military, you're in the militia, which is the Army. Right? So you could put that you're in the Army of the United States just because you registered for the draft. And then give them your mailing address. All right, so basically, specific action requested. Support and defend the Constitution of the United States, 4th Article, guarantee to every state in the Union a Republican form of government by administering the oath mandated by an act to regulate the time and manner of administering certain oaths. That'd be that one stat 23. To qualified incumbents of the various class of officers identified in the 6th Article of the Constitution of the United States, and remove all unqualified persons impersonating as a qualified incumbent, be the keeper of these records and judge of incumbent qualifications. So, obviously you followed me for a while, you know what I'm talking about, right? That there's the first law passed after the ratification of the Constitution is an act to regulate time and manner of administering certain oaths. And in that act, which became 1 Stat 23, that was the first law, right? It says that this is that this oath in the following form is the one that satisfies the 6th article of the Constitution. And then it gives the exact wording of the oath. Well, there's nobody taking that oath. And that, if you go to the 6th article and look, right, all senators, representatives, and members of the different legislatures, state legislatures have to take it, as do all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states. So basically, anybody who's got any authority in the government other than the military has to have taken that oath. And they're not taking it. Governor didn't take it. Judges don't take it. Supreme Court justices don't take it. Nancy Pelosi didn't take it. Your congressman or woman didn't take it. Your state congressman or your state representatives, right, at state level, they didn't take it. The county commissioner didn't take it. Nobody's taking it, right? So we don't have a Republican form of government because none of these people have taken the oath. And that's what the 4th article guarantees. Every state in the Union a Republican form of government. Well, to have that, you have to have oath-bound officers, and we don't have any. The states of the Union are denied a Republican form of government because persons now acting as senators, representatives, members of the several state legislatures, and executive and judicial officers, both the United States and the several states, fail to execute the oath of office that satisfies this article of the Constitution of the United States, as mandated in the first law of the United States. And I don't have to accept them not doing that. If you're not going to enforce the first law of your country, well, nobody's going to follow any of the laws. Right? I mean, that's the point. They did it wrong from the beginning. So you can't catch them halfway down the list and say, well, this is where it happened. No, it happened at the beginning. You didn't go far enough back. It happened because they didn't file a freaking oath of office. Right? An act to regulate time, manner of administering certain oaths, that'd be that 1 Stat 23, specifies the form of this oath as, I, state your name, do solemnly swear or affirm, thou support Constitution of the United States. Period. Right? The A, B requires incumbent's full name be inserted after I. So if you look at like a state constitution in Michigan, they have I and then goes on, but there's no place to put a name in there. Well, then they can't say that satisfied this requirement, which is what the state librarians, legal experts, trying to tell me right now. Say it's not the same. It's another issue. Right? I'm just saying. No, it has to be exactly this. There's nothing else that satisfies the federal law other than this oath right here, without anything else added from, quotes to quotes, man. If they can't do it, if they can't do that, then they can't be an officer in the United States or the several states. So further, the former oath in the 2nd article of the Constitution of the United States for the President of the United States of America, which is actually the office that's described in the 2nd article, it's not President of the United States, it's President of the United States of America, was intentionally corrupted and rendered unconstitutional by Esquire John Glover Roberts, acting as Chief Justice, who added both the name of the alleged President-elect and the religious test, so help me God, resulting in this office being vacant, a qualified incumbent. The oath of the President of the United States of America in 6th article, that'd be the senators, representatives, members, and officers, is being intentionally avoided as part of a scheme to allow Crown agents, that'd be the Esquires, to impersonate as constitutionally empowered civil government of the United States and several states while they terrorize the citizenry for foreign powers and embezzle the wealth of the nation. I have complained numerous times in various ways to many government agencies using the email address robryder@aol.com and court of record at aol.com, I suggest the IG search them out. Right? They can just search my email address. They're all over the place. However, I am attaching examples for review pertaining to the United States Congress and the Governor of Michigan. No judge or justice, governor, attorney general, secretary of state, federal agency employee, commissioner, township supervisor, etc., is qualified for office. I do consent to release my information. All right, and this is what it looks like. He did a digital signature all the way to the end. But once you put that in there, you can't go back and change anything you type. So you got to make sure you're done. All right, now it did let me put thankfully, put a, excuse me, I didn't have to, no, it was over here. I hadn't put the date, but it allowed me to put the date in afterwards. And then this is where it's supposed to go to the IG. Right? And this one is going to the Joint Chiefs, right? If you go to, Google Joint Chiefs, you'll find their website and put in Inspector General, and you'll find a frickin' email address, and you can send them this form with whatever your complaint is. And, whatever it is you're going to send as evidence. So then I took, this same thing, because I'm not going to show it again, but I did, I was able to copy and paste all the same information out of here, put it into another form, and send it on to the 5th Army. All right, so, okay, hang on a minute here. Okay, just one last thing. This is the Joint Chiefs form, right? That's DD Form 2949, right? DD Form 2949. And if you notice, this one asks for your Social Security number. I think this is the difference, because this other form asks for your DOD ID number. Right? Doesn't have any place to put a Social Security number in. So this is for, if you're in the Army. And the other one is for if you're in the reserves or the militia or whatever you want to call it, right? Outside of the Army. That would be my guess. So, anyways, this particular one is the one that I sent to Human Resource, right, for the Army, which is, where are they? All right, Human Resource Command. Right, so I'm sure all the services have one, and this is the IG page of the Human Resource Command, and here's an email address that if you send something to, well, they may respond to you, as they did for me. I don't know what they're going to do with it yet, but hey, they're looking at it. So what is it? What is it that I gave them to look at? I gave them this. I said that I request the Inspector General assist in acquiring my Army Regulation 600-8-104 Army Military Human Resource Record. They call it the AMHRR. My certificate of service from the Secretary of the Army, described in Section 4012 of 50 U.S.C. Chapter 50, Service Member Civil Relief. Right? Just the way it comes off the paper, that's why I put it on there. But it's 50 U.S.C. 4012. And all the various VA Privacy Act system of records that incorporate my Social Security number and my obtaining equitable relief from errors and omissions contained in or approved by said certificate and records. So in other words, right, there's more records than just the official records that they talk about that are kept, right? And there's also a certificate that you can get from the Secretary of the Army which says that it's prima facie evidence of your service. It's like, well, let's start there. What do you guys say that I did? Right? But they never tell you this stuff. Or, how to get it. So I said, well, I want to get these things. I'm going to ask them. And then at the VA, and really this is for any federal agency, right? They have these things they call systems of records, right? That you get through the Privacy Act, by using the Privacy Act doorway instead of the FOIA doorway, where you basically say it's your record, you want a copy, right? That's how it's supposed to work. Well, they don't seem to want to send them to you then either. So, I said, well, hell, maybe they'll get them for me. So I sent them that, and my reasoning was, The Inspector General, right? So I'm TIG, basically. Army regulations state that it is the individual's duty to inspect his records for errors or omissions. And it is a fact that errors and omissions in service records will adversely affect an individual's status, constitutional due process protections, pay, and entitlement benefits. I previously tried acquiring 50 U.S.C. 4012 certificate for the Secretary of the Army, my AMHRR, and various VA Privacy Act systems records that incorporate my Social Security number, but have thus far been unsuccessful. As I am convinced there are errors and omissions adversely affecting my status, constitutional due process protections, pay, and entitled benefits, the effects from which I am entitled to equitable relief to cure the injustices, I ask the Inspector General to act as my agent in acquiring the 50 U.S.C. 412 certificate, my AMHRR, and all VA Privacy Act system of records that incorporate my Social Security number for my inspection as soon as possible. As this DA Form 1559, June 18, 2018, does not have an upload attachment button, although it says it does, I'm attaching in the email used to send a copy of 50 U.S.C. 412, 4012, and the current VA Privacy Act system of records. I'm not attaching a copy of the Army regulation, but respectively inform you that it controls AMHRR. Notice it is a VA policy to file records using an individual Social Security number, not by their name. That's good to know, right? So VA puts records in to whatever cubby hole they're putting them in based on your Social Security number, not based on your name. And I know that they use at least 3 styles of names for you, right? They got Rytlewski, Robert Allen. They have Robert A. Rytlewski. They have Robert Allen Rytlewski. They could have Rytlewski, Robert A. also, right, with a middle initial. They have all these different ways of using your name. And so as hard as I get to, get the VA to change my records, right, I still get mail as Robert A. Rytlewski. Doesn't make any sense, but there it is, right? So apparently there's more records that need to be fixed than the ones that I had access to. And I guess the only way to get them is to ask for the records and, start from there. Okay, hang on. Okay, well, we'll look at what I attached, but, what I got the same day, which was the Army's birthday, same day I sent it, thank you very much. Acknowledgement, case number DX210760, right? I have a case now with the Inspector General of Human Resource Division. Right, acknowledge receipt of your IG request. I'm assigned as the action officer assisting you in the matter. Your case number is, they give a case number. Now here they have a dash in, and there they didn't. Now this is things that really start to piss me off when I look closely at paperwork, right? That, why are you doing it differently in one spot than the other? Understand that you're asking the IG to specifically assist you with the following, which is basically they took whatever I said in the form and they put it in here. Please be advised that some paragraph in the Army regulation protect confidentiality, please acknowledge receipt of this email. I did. Okay, so I have a sergeant major who's my officer. Outstanding, Sarge, Major. And so let's see what goes on. Now, I'll just show you a few of the attachments I put on, and we can call it a day on the video. So hang on just a second. Okay, but really quick, because if you're in the Army, this is going to apply to you, right? It's Army Regulation 600-8-104, which you can download off the internet. I'm sure the Air Force, Navy, Marines, you all got your own, right? But it's the Army Military Human Resource Records Management. How are they keeping the records for human resources, which, you're one of. And I don't want to read this whole thing, but just, a couple of things that were stuck out in my mind that, okay. Purposes. This regulation prescribes Army policy for the creation, utilization, administration, maintenance, and disposition of Army, military, human resource record. Right? Not your official record, which is in here, but this is the proper name, right? This is why you don't ask for your official record. You ask for the Army Military Human Resource Record. Where it says in here that the naming convention AMHRR is an umbrella term encompassing human resource records for soldiers, retirees, veterans, and deceased personnel. Right? So, you know, if you're a survivor or a dependent, you know, still the record you're asking for of the veteran or the deceased. The AMHRR includes, but is not limited to, the official military personal file, finance-related documents, and non-service-related documents deemed necessary to store by the Army. The AMHRR is archived in the Interactive Personal Electronic Records Management System, which has been identified as a records management application for the Army. Okay, I don't have time to read through all this, but later on you go in here to tell you the address that you write for to try to get this, which I did, and it didn't work, so this is why I'm going to the IG now. All right, but I'm just really trying to point out that it's not the OMPF you need by itself. You need the AMHRR. And the reason is it has these finance-related documents. There could be some little thing you didn't pay for, like a freaking, you know, canteen. Whatever they decided to use to put a check in a box to keep you from being paid until you took care of your freaking, you know, your lien. They put a lien on your property. And if they did, or if that's what happened, then it's in the finance-related documents, which aren't part of the official military personnel file. So that's the kind of stuff we got to deal with. Okay. All right, hang on again. All right, so that was the AMHRR I'm asking for. But then I want, all right, this is 50 USC 412. If you Google it, right, you'll find a link that goes to the government printing office. All right, gpo.gov, and when you click on it, you can download a PDF, and this is what it looks like. So, subsection 4012, certificates of service, persons reported missing. Prima facie evidence. In any proceeding under this chapter, a certificate signed by the secretary concerned is prima facie evidence as to any of the following facts stated in the certificate. All right, the person named is or is not, has not been in the military service. Time and place the person entered the military service, residence at the time, rank, branch, unit, military, inclusive dates, so forth and so on. Certificates concerned shall, the secretary concerned shall issue a certificate under subsection A upon a request from application for such a certificate. Well, that's what I want. A certificate appearing to be signed by the secretary concerning the concerned is prima facie evidence of the contents of the signer's authority to issue it. So it's something you can enter as evidence in a court case. It's evidence. It's not hearsay. No, this is certified by the Secretary of the Military. Now, this is the thing I think that's happened, right, is treatment of service members in missing status. A service member who has been reported missing is presumed to continue in service until accounted for. Requirement of this chapter that begins or ends with the death of a service member does not begin or end until the service member's death is reported to, determined by the secretary concerned, or by a court of competent jurisdiction. So I believe right now, you know, like my dad, he's been dead for many years, right? Served in the Korean War, right? That according to the records of the military, he's still in. He's just missing. Somehow he's been missing in action since the Civil War. Because if you look at, you know, especially back in those times, the DD-214s that they got just said that they were, you know, they went on unpaid leave. There's nothing on a DD214 that ends your service. It just ends your active duty service. So, and then we never appeared. Okay, so I put that in, I got the thing back, and then I said, you know what, I want to send a little more information to the Sergeant Major this morning, so I did. I want to read that so I get it into the record, and then I can call it a day. All right, hang on. Okay, so I'll make this relatively quick, right? This is what I sent to the Sergeant Major today based on the errors and omissions that are on my DD214, which I'm able to verify because I went and found the different regulations that go with putting the thing together. And so what I'm going to show, is specifically for the Army. So if you're in the Army, write all these down, these regulations I'm going to show. There's only a couple, 3 of them, right? But if you're not, you have your own regulation, does the same thing. You'll get what's going on, right? So anyways, Sergeant Major Harriet, thank you for your service. Quick response. And they opened my case. Sergeant Major, I did not desert. My error-filled DD214 appears to indicate that I was discharged in absentia or physically unable to sign Block 21. However, AR 635-5-1, paragraph 2-4 requires the phrase soldier not available to sign be inserted, not the words member unavailable for signature. Well, what is that all about? Well, on your DD214, right, there's some place to sign. Well, I didn't sign it. Right, member unavailable for signature. Well, come to find out, that could mean that you were discharged in absentia. It could mean you're a deserter. Right, it could mean you weren't available for who knows what reason, and that would be, well, because you were missing. But why didn't I sign it? Right, why didn't I sign this? And that was covered. Where did I say that shit's covered in? Right? This is 635-5-1. So I got to find that. Here you are, 635-5-1. Here it is, Separation Program Designator. Oh, okay. Hey, actually, I made a mistake here. It's not AR 635-5-1. It's just AR 635-5, right? Which is separation documents. And now I got to find 2.4. There it is, 2.4. Right, and so in 2.4, it's going to go through all these different blocks and tell you what to put in it. And eventually, you get down here to block 21, signature, a soldier being separated. Right, signature indicates a soldier has reviewed the form and accepts the information as being correct. Request soldier sign the original in ink and use ballpoint pen, ensuring the soldier signature goes through all the copies. When a soldier is not available, discharged in absentia, or physically unable, it doesn't give any other reasons, right? Enter soldier not available to sign. When soldier refuses to sign, enter soldier refused to sign. Well, obviously I didn't refuse. They just said I was unavailable for signature. Now, it's a big deal when you don't use the right words. They said exactly in the Army regulation what to put in the block. And I don't believe they're leaving any room for them to, do it on their own, and this is just more evidence that it wasn't done properly. Right, so AR 635-5, I think I said section 2. Right, because it's kind of a long section, right? Section 2-4. Right, and you could take yours and just go through every block that's on your DD214 and you figure out where all the information was supposed to have come from. Okay, let's continue on. Hang on here. Okay, now AR 635-5-1, paragraph 2.3, which is correct for what I'm talking about now. Right, when an SPD codes and narrative reasons for separation are listed together, they are considered for official purpose only. And in D, it says that the narrative reason for separation will be entered in Block 28 of a DD Form 214 exactly as listed in Table 2.2 or 2.3 of this regulation. No deviation is authorized. Now that's right out of the frickin' regulation. Right, AR 635-5-1, Separation Program Designators, SPD codes, which says in 2.2, right, rules for SPD code control and usage. When SPD codes and narrative reasons for separation are listed together, they are considered for official use only and will not be released to any agency or person outside the DoD. The narrative reason for separation will be entered in Block 28 of the DD Form 214 exactly as listed in Table 2-2 or 2-3 of this regulation. No deviation is authorized. All right, you got to go 2-2. Right, and so I go, and mine's actually in 2-3, right? There's mine, JBK, completion of required active service, AR 635-200, that's supposed to be the regulatory authority, and then there's a note, right? And this says involuntary discharge. It's like, well, that's bullshit, man. I'm the one who left, right? I went on and worked at a nuclear power plant. But it had that note, and then it says, Note 7, except for those with the DCSS in force to be used for RA soldiers ineligible for, barred from, or otherwise denied reenlistment that are separated on completion of enlistment. Well, I wasn't ineligible or barred or otherwise denied reenlistment, right? Because I can go look at my DD 214. It's got this RE1A, which if I was to go find, that's a good one. You can reenlist with the RE1A, no problem. Right, they'll take you back in an instant. So the JBK they put here in 26 doesn't match the narrative down here. Expiration of term of service. Fucker, man. So excuse my French. Right? Because here it is. This is the JBK. It's supposed to be narrative completion of required active service. All right? Not expiration term of service. It's the wrong words. They're the ones that said they have to, for official use only, and you have to do it exactly like it says. And they did not do so. And then I guess AR 635-200-4. Did they put that in there right? Let's see. Yeah, AR 635-200, Chapter 4. So that part's right, but all this stuff up here is messed up. Now this is the long form of the DD 214, right? So if you don't have your copy 4, because I didn't have my copy 4, right? I got this by contacting under the state adjutant general. They have, some office that's going to have to do with veterans, right? They sent it to me because I didn't have it, right? And so for years, I didn't even know that this part down here existed until I started looking into this stuff. So, I don't even have a complete DD 214, right? And you need this information here to prove your point, because if this doesn't match this in the book, which is AR 635-5-1, right? And if they don't match here, then it's wrong. There's something wrong with your records. Time to call the IG. All right. Now what else did I have to say? We're just about done here. Okay, so my narrative reason for separation, Block 28, deviates from Table 2.2 JBK narrative. Should have actually been 2.3. Kind of had a lot of mistakes in this, but that's the way it goes. Table 2.3 of AR 635-5 indicates that JBK is involuntary discharge, and according to this associated note 7, except for those with DCSS in force, you can't reenlist. Yet my DD214 Block 27 reenlistment code is RE-1A, indicating I'm qualified to reenlist. Block 25, the separation code, states in paragraph 4.3, right? Because if you go look at AR 635-200, whatever, right? Whatever they put here, go find your version of the Army regulation they're talking about, because it may not always be AR 635-200, right? But mine is. So when I go look at it, it says, it's got a note that says soldiers precluded from reenlistment for any reason and discharge forfeit retirement eligibility altogether, as reentry on active duty for the purpose of applying for retirement is not allowed. So they've blocked me from getting retirement pay, which I should have got when I turned 60. If you turn 60, you served, you have retirement coming. I don't care what they tell you. Right? There's an error. The only reason you're not getting it is there's an error in your records. So I have a note attached to JBK that states I'm barred from reenlistment and I forfeited retirement eligibility in contradiction to the reenlistment code RE-1A authorizing reenlistment. Sergeant Major, in the completion of my DD-214 Army Regulation AR 635-5-1 was intentionally violated, and I am disenfranchised. I'm not a deserter. In fact, I was awarded a Q clearance security clearance by the Department of Energy, which is the equivalent of a top secret clearance after my active duty service. So if I was a deserter or missing, how could that have happened? Unless there's errors in the records and people aren't talking to each other. I was not barred from reenlistment, and I did not receive a discharge order required in AR 635-200, paragraph 1-29. We'll look at that in just a second. Finally, I did not receive dental care, so I could not have been separated from the custody and control of the military, from the Army. Dental care is considered medical, right? It's not like it's separate. No, you had to have dental within 90 days of your discharge, or you didn't get a complete discharge physical, right? Indicating I'm still in the Army. Perhaps I'm carried as missing or some other status, but the only way to find out is have access to all my records in the Secretary of the Army Certificate of Service described in 50 U.S.C. 4012. But thus far, my request has been denied. I did not desert, and I want to file a DA Form 2823 sworn statement, in this case, to that effect, and if necessary to vindicate my honest and faithful service, I demand trial by court-martial. As I mentioned yesterday, the identification information shared between the VA, or the Army and the VA, is also corrupted, and as proof, I've attached screenshots of my VA profile. My name is wrong, my birth date is wrong, my service dates do not match my DD-214, my home address is incorrect. Sergeant Major, I need your help. Da-da-da-da. Okay. VA profile stuff real quick. Right, so if you in the military and you have access to, the VA website online and you look at your profile, it's got information in there, right? But let me start at the bottom and work up, because when I first signed up, they had my name as Robert A. Rytlewski, right? And they had a wrong birth date. And so I complained about it. Well, they changed it, and they changed it to this, Robert Allen Rytlewski, which is still incorrect, obviously, but they weren't going to do it properly, right? They don't want to have your proper name in that field for whatever the reason is. I don't really know exactly. I just know, well, it's not Robert Allen Rytlewski, it's Robert Allen, or it was Robert A. And then I went down, I looked closely, and I said, well, they got my birth date wrong. It's September 5th, not September 1st. And then I looked even closer and said, well, they have my dates wrong, right? Because my DD-214 says I got it on March 16th, the second time, and the first time, prior service came back in, it was March 11th, right? So they're wrong twice. Not really sure why. I just know that they're not the same. And then it has home address. Where the hell is that at, right? So, I know more now than I did earlier. I don't live in Rockford. That may be where my mail comes from. It may be my postal city, but it's not where I live, so it's not my home address. Right? Now, I can't get anybody to tell me what my home address is. That's another thing they don't want to give you is what's your residence address. They want you to use your mailing address as your address so that there's an error in the records. Right? This is, done to you intentionally when you go get a driver's license. So this is how it was back, 7/28 last year. Well, now somebody's come back in and they've changed my name back to Robert A. Rutlerski. But they didn't change they changed the whole way this form looks now. But my dates are still wrong for military. And where's the birth date at? It's got to be on here somewhere. Yeah, September 1st, right? So my birth date's still wrong. My name is wrong. My address is wrong. And my service dates don't match my DD-214. So this isn't my record. This is a counterfeit of my record. I'm not accepting that this is me at all. This has got nothing to do with me. It's somebody else. Where's my record? Right? Or we have to fix the damn record, because the point is that the identification information that's used is shared between the VA and the military, right? So it's the same information. So if there's errors in this, then there's errors in your military record, which would be found if we could get a hold of our AMHRR, right? Which is the key document. And then, get this frickin' Secretary of the Army to declare what your status is. Certify it. So, that's what I'm doing now. And we'll see how that goes. I wanted to show you one last thing real quick, right, before I forget. Right. Army Regulation 635-200 is the one, that's the regulation they're supposed to follow to do the discharge. And it says down in uh, 1-29, effective date of discharge, right, that actual, when delivery of soldier of the discharge certificate, constructive, when actual delivery of the discharge order cannot be accomplished because of the absence of the soldier to be discharged. Well, I didn't get a discharge order. Did anybody else get a discharge order? Right? Apparently, there's a discharge order we're supposed to have gotten. And it says, continuing on, that the annotated discharge certificate, discharge order, and copy of DD-214 reflecting effective date of discharge will be sent to the soldier at the address provided for the purpose. If the documents mailed to the soldier are returned unclaimed or undelivered, they will be destroyed. So all they got to do is send them the wrong address, and you would never get them. But they were supposed to, an annotated discharge certificate, a discharge order, and a copy of the DD-214 was supposed to have been mailed to you. Right? Did you get them in the mail? Not? Well then, you're in the same boat I am. So then it goes on, though, that the annotated discharge order and copy of the DD-214 further reflecting date of mailing of the soldier to the soldier will be included in the personnel file. The personnel file will be sent to the commander, U.S. Army Enlisted Records, Evaluation Center, da-da-da-da. So, is that yet another record other than the AMHRR and the certificate and so forth? I don't really know. I just know that, they have all this stuff split up, compartmentalized, a little block here, a little block there, a little block there. I'm just trying to recreate it to get enough evidence to say, look, dudes, this stuff is wrong. I want to see my records. What you're telling me isn't jiving. And the nice thing now is, well, I actually have a case that's in the military. So I saw this when we were going through these. Where was that? Right. So right now I'm dealing with the HRC command. Right. But you saw in them sections of UCMJ that if somebody's doing you wrong in the military, you can complain about it. Well, that would be the next thing, right? Is that's at this Joint Task Force, National Capital Region, right? Which is part of the NORTHCOM, where it says in here, right, that Joint Mission and Army Mission, that it's the General Court-Martial Convening Authority for over 400 Army agencies distributed across the globe. Right? So, at the end of the day, I hope it doesn't come down to this. I hope that it all gets settled at HRC. But if I don't like their answer, right, I'm going to file another one with these people. And, just working my way up the chain of command. That's what I was trained to do, so I'll try it again. Well, very good. Hey, that was a lot of me talking really fast, so I hope you all caught on to the parts that matter to you. And other than that, we're going to have to see what TIG has to say. And so I'll keep you updated. And I'm sure we'll be talking again soon. Have a good day.